Hey folks, this is Richard Taylor, also known as Writing Code, coming to you from the interwebs, and wanted to share with you a little challenge that I came across over the last couple days. So for folks that know me, I am a fan of the Xamarin platform and obviously .NET, Azure, etc. And there was a challenge put out a few days ago, actually September 24th, by the Xamarin team, introducing new folks and actually experienced folks as well to Xamarin and Azure Functions, and actually bringing the two technologies together. So what I wanted to do was walk through the challenge with you all and show you how simple it is to get Xamarin and Azure Functions working together quite nicely. As an added bonus, the function challenge has some prizes, and once you successfully submit your entry, you will be entered into the drawing for those prizes. There are a couple prerequisites. One, having an Azure account, which anyone can set up for free, as well as Visual Studio 2019. This does work with Community, which is a free version, so you can go ahead and download that if you don't have that installed already. Once you satisfied those prerequisites, you can get started with the challenge. The challenge itself is hosted in GitHub, and you can see the link at the top in the URL window here. Go to that URL, and if you click on the README file, it has all the instructions for completing the challenge and entering for the prizes. So you start by cloning the repo, which I've already done, so I won't walk through that, but let's go ahead and get started with the challenge. Okay, I've already cloned the repo, and I'm going to go ahead and open the solution that is part of the repository. It's named Xamarin-Azure Challenge, so we'll go ahead and open that up. And once the solution opens, you will see two distinct areas within the solution. There's a folder named Backend, which has the project for our Azure function, and then there is a folder named Mobile that actually has the code for our mobile app. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get the function deployed into Azure. So I'm going to right click and hit publish, and we have this nice dialog. It gives us all these options, but simply we want to go with the consumption plan, which is basically a dynamic setup. It's going to run the code when needed. Nothing we need to manage, or it's the lowest cost, obviously. And so we're going to do create new, run from package is fine. We're going to make sure we have publish immediately. I'm going to click publish. The next dialog that comes up is around our app service that we're going to create. Now, I already have my Azure sub selected, and it's going to give me for the name Xamarin-Azure Challenge Functions, and it's going to get have a date. So I'm just going to remove the date portion, and I'm going to just say write in the code. All right, and it does its validation. It looks good. I'm going to use my Visual Studio Enterprise subscription. I'm going to go ahead and set up a new resource group, and it's going to be named Xamarin-Azure Challenge. Click OK, and that should be pretty good to go. And I'm going to pick ECUS2 for the location, and I'm going to create a new storage account, and I'm going to pick, I actually pre-selected a name, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there, and that should validate and should be okay. I'm going to put it in ECUS2 as well. We're going to keep it simple, local redundant storage, or locally redundant storage, and that's it. I'm going to click OK, and everything looks good. I'm going to click create, and this will take a while because we're going to set up the resource group, we're going to set up the app service, we're going to set up the storage, and then eventually deploy the function itself. So it will take a few minutes, and we'll just go ahead and wait until all of that gets set up and is completed. All right, looks like the Azure resource provisioning is completed. So now we're completing the build of the function and the publish has started, and once it's all done, we should get a publish succeeded, which will let us know that all of our code is now up in Azure, just about ready to be executed. So that should be completing here shortly. Here we go, publish succeeded. So we are good to go. So our Azure function is now deployed in Azure and ready to be utilized. All right, so we're going to close this. And now we're going to switch over to the Azure portal. So let me move the portal into play here. And I'm going to refresh my resource groups. And now there's a Xamarin-Azure Challenge resource group that is there. I'm going to go ahead and click that and open it up, and you can see we have the app service plan, we have the Azure function, and then we have the associated storage account. All right, so there's a couple things we need to change. First thing is we need to tell the Azure function, or at least give it the URL, so that when it receives the information from the mobile app, it knows where to send it for the registration for the challenge, and the prizes, etc. will be completed. So we're going to go ahead and actually modify the actual application itself. So once we click on the function app, we're going to click on configuration. It's going to take us to the configuration screen. It has a bunch of options, and we're going to add a new application setting. And this application setting is the first. We're going to give it a name. It's going to be called endpoint, and then we're going to give it a URL, and I'm just going to paste it in. And as I said before, all of this is referenced in the README. We're just not walking step by step. So I'm going to click OK, and now we see endpoint in there, and I'm going to click Save. And that should be good to go once we get a green light over here saying it was successful. There we go. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to set up a couple options that will handle making sure that the function is operating with the right permissions, etc. So we're going to use manage identity and access control. So we're going to select the function again, but this time we're going to go to platform features. And then the first thing we want to do is click on the identity option. And this is where we actually turn on and managed identity. So we're going to click on here and just click Save. It's going to ask us basically, are you sure? We're going to click yes. It's going to run through its process, and over here on the right we should get a green checkbox saying that it was enabled, and it is. And you'll see it actually assigns an object ID, and that object ID is associated with the function. So we're going to click back onto the function, and now instead of identity we're going to go over here to access control, and we're going to click add. We're going to do add role assignment, and we're going to select owner for this one. We're going to leave that assign access to. We're going to leave the default there, and then we want to type in the name of the function we set up. So in this case I'm just going to type in Xamarin. It's going to search my sub, and there it is. I'm going to highlight it. It's selected member. It's part of the selected members group, and then I'm going to click Save. And once it's done, it's going to give us a checkbox. All right, so now we've got the function set up. It's we have all the identity and access control information set up, and now we need to get the URL to the function for our mobile app to call. So if we switch back over to the Azure function again, you'll see the submit challenge function. So we're going to highlight that, and we're going to grab the get function URL link. So if you click on it, it should give us the URL that our mobile app is going to call. So here it is, get function URL. Brings up in a dialog here. We're going to just copy it to the clipboard. All right, so that's all we need to do there. Now we need to go over to the mobile app and get it configured so it will work. So here we are back in the Visual Studio, and we're going to go into the Xamarin-Azure Challenge project, and you'll see a view models folder. We're going to go into user data view model.cs, and on line 14 and 15 you'll see what needs to be done here. So we already have the URLs on our clipboard, So we're going to replace this string here with that URL, and just to keep it all nice and neat, we're going to delete line 14 and save. And then now I'm going to use the Android version, but you're more than welcome to use iOS, and the process at this point should be relatively the same. All right, so now that we have the endpoint URL updated in the application, we simply need to do a build. So I'm going to right click on the Android project and I'm going to do build. And once it's done, we get build succeeded. And now I'm going to actually bring up my mobile device, which this is just a screen share from my Note 3 that I use for development when I'm on Android. So we're going to go ahead and select the Android project, and I'm going to select that device. We're going to deploy to that and run the app and see what we get. So let me bring the device back into view. Okay, deploying to the device. Alright, so now we're entering debug mode. App is beginning or starting up. Alright, so we have the app running now. And I'm going to go ahead and click start. And I'm going to go ahead and enter my information. And accept the terms. And I'm going to click submit, but it's going to give me an error because I've already submitted on this subscription ID. So the way this works is the Azure function will accept the information, validate the subscription ID, and then your information against the database that's used to manage the entries. And if you have, if it has seen, or if there's an entry with your sub ID, obviously it's not going to allow you to create multiple submissions, so we will get an error. But if you are successful, you should get a nice message that says congratulations, you completed the challenge. You should get a confirmation email to the email address that was provided in the submission. Thank you for watching this video of me going through the Xamarin-Azure Functions challenge. As you can see, it was a very simple challenge, but it does provide a good example of bringing the two technologies, Xamarin and Azure Functions, together to provide solutions to common problems. If you have any questions about this challenge or just general questions, you feel free to reach me by email at rtaylor@writandcode.com or on Twitter @writandcode. Thanks for watching.